The interval between Piranha 2 and when the Terminator actually started shooting, there was a period where the film was set to go but then got postponed for 6 months, and during that period I had written the second Rambo film, which was called Rambo, which everybody now calls Rambo 2, which was actually First Blood Part 2, Rambo, and I'd written this other thing called Alien 2. Now everybody is sort of taking me to lunch and saying, kid, trust me, don't make this Alien 2 thing. It's a loser proposition. It's a no-win for you. If it's good, it'll be good because Ridley Scott did such a good first film, and if it's bad, it'll be totally your fault.
Ridley Scott's movie was hardly an action film, and although there were elements of suspense in Jim's movie, I think that he achieved what he wanted to achieve. You know, I think Aliens is a brilliant movie.
What's happening, Apone? Can't see anything in here.
And I could just see the movie at that point. I could just see it in my head, and I just had to make it. So then there were some little issues like the fact that no one had made a deal with Sigourney Weaver, and I had written a script about a character named Ripley that only she could play. It's little things like that.
4 and 2, take 1, A&D cameras. Second clap after full stop. Action!
But all of that stuff got solved, and I was making Aliens next. So I didn't really have to play the game that much. I didn't have to play the development game and read a bunch of scripts and all that sort of thing. I pretty much just was already on a trajectory and just continued on that trajectory.
Jim just has to be challenged on such a level that I think he thrives on the pressure in a way. He almost loves the idea that people, when somebody says that's impossible, he loves to just, you know, take that baton and say, I'll show you how impossible that really is, and go and go and do it. He almost strikes me as a guy in another century who would have been an explorer, probably.
Aliens was very well received. We got 7 Academy Award nominations. Sigourney got nominated for Best Actress, and you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the first time that an actor has been nominated for Best Actor or Actress in a genre picture, a hardcore genre picture like a horror picture or a science fiction film that I can think of. So that, for me, was such a breakthrough, because I had always said to myself, I love science fiction. I don't see why it should be limited by this genre box that it's been put into. I don't see why you can't make an A-quality movie for a grown-up sensibility that happens to be about a science fiction subject. People are finally realizing that we live in a science fiction world. We live in a world that has been transformed in the last 15 years by the microchip, and we are living in a world that no one could have imagined 15 years ago, and we've just adapted to it. So maybe our tolerance for that kind of, you know, imaginative thinking has increased quite a bit and been absorbed into the mainstream, and maybe that was happening sort of around the time that Aliens came out. But yeah, it was very gratifying, and then all of a sudden, as opposed to, you know, having a sophomore slump, the second picture was even more successful than the first picture. So that went a long way towards cementing, you know, my career as a filmmaker and, you know, Gail Hurd's career as a producer. But in having finished Aliens, I think there was a sense that it was a strange moment for me, I remember, and I took a long time off after Aliens, because the furthest that I could have ever imagined when I started into filmmaking was that I would make a big Hollywood science fiction film and it would be seen around the world and be a big hit and people would line up around the block to see it. That was the furthest that I could ever imagine. That was the end goal. Well, I had accomplished the end goal, and I didn't have anything beyond that. So I had to sort of regroup and go, all right, well, okay, fine. I'm a little ahead of my timeline here. Now what? And so I had to look around for what was interesting to me as a filmmaker.
He is known for being tough. He's someone who does things nobody else will ever do in the movies. You can't imagine the movie business without Jim Cameron.